1.
Alright, so, I am Twak. I am running Hob any percent no FPS abuse, and assuming I can go ahead and start, I guess I'll just go ahead and do a countdown. And that will be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Alright, so, Hob is a action-adventure game where you're awakened by our golem friend Jeeves. Say hi, Jeeves. And you're given the task to repair the floating islands and save the islands from this, like, alien corruption. Of course, we're going to do as little repairing as possible. Granted, it's a speed run. Really quick, there's a goat. Very, very great goat showing up. Alright, so I'll go ahead and just go into the speed tech. So our first main trick is collision boosting. There are some objects where when you first step on them, you get pushed up slightly, and if you jump during that sort of initial boost, you get extra height, and we'll use that to climb onto things we're not supposed to. Such as that ledge back there, which skips a few cutscenes, and then this route up here, which is going to take us to some brand new heights. Oh, this one's also the worst collision boost in the game. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to be pause buffering here. I need to focus a bit. Whoops. That was the opposite direction. This is what we call the curse of the route. It's very tricky. Alright, I need to focus. Almost there. So I guess I can explain what I'm doing. So when you are about to walk off a ledge, there we go, and then you turn around, Hob does this little stumble animation, and by doing that in a certain direction towards a wall, we're able to go through it. And it's a pretty specific timing to do that animation, which is why I pause buffer there. So a bit interesting fun fact about the category. This used to be called any percent no FPS abuse, or sorry, no. This used to be called any percent no clip, and we used to ban pretty much every clip through collision in this game, because this is one of those games where collision gets really wacky at low frame rates, and so we used to think that all the clips were frame rate dependent. However, that stumble clip, or as we call it, intro clip, because it skips about half the intro cutscene, is not frame rate dependent, and that's why we changed the name to no FPS abuse. Yeah, normally you have to go down here and go through this whole cutscene where Hob's arm gets infected, and then Jeeves has to amputate it, and then he gives us his golem arm. But we're able to skip through the first half of that where Hob's arm gets infected, which saves, I think, around 30 seconds at least. Alright, this is another really tricky jump. Luckily, all the hard tricks in this game are at the start. There we go. Going to be mashing roll here so I can try and pick up the sword. Yes. Oh, nope, I didn't get it. If you do that fast enough after talking to Jeeves, then you can skip this animation where you pick up that sword fragment. It kind of looks like he just breaks the sword with his big hand. It's really funny when it works. right, there's time for like 1 or 2 donations right now. It's not going to be much happening.
Suddenly my thing decides to work right when we have the opening, so that's great.
Perfect.
Well, currently there aren't any donations available, but I will shout out a few other things instead. Just want to say that so far we've been doing amazingly for this marathon. I'm really proud to see it. But for those of you who don't know already, those of you who donate $50 or more cumulatively during Midwest Speedfest 2020 will be entered to win a beautiful one-of-a-kind poster of our cute little pesto baby, P. Besto. That I was expecting B. Pesto, but no, the other way around. Type exclamation poster in chat for a link to a picture of it.
All right, so now that we have the sword, we can do...
And outside of that, we also have a special thanks to LPAV for providing PVMs, projectors, and cameras to our marathon since 2017. LPAV is Minnesota's trusted video and audio vendor since 2003. Having worked with companies such as Mountain Dew and Microsoft, you can trust LPAV will do it right the first time. Please support them by checking out their eBay store, which you can find in our Twitch bio, or by typing exclamation LPAV.
Alright, so now that we have the sword, we can do some fun movement tech. Essentially, there are a lot of animations in this game where it will push you forward slightly when you first do them, and then by canceling that animation at the start with a roll, we're able to do something called a roll cancel, which gives us a lot of momentum. I wanted to mention it earlier, but that trick where I was trying to jump on top of that wall, that is the Bushtwacker. Thanks, Half Coordinated, for the name. And it is the hardest trick in the game, probably. So I'm glad I got it relatively quickly. But so by doing a roll cancel, which again is like attacking and then rolling during the startup, by doing that towards the ledge and then jumping at the ledge, there we go. We can do something called a long jump, which lets us jump way further than intended. And that is one of the main movement techs in this game. And canceling itself is used for like the entire run just for grounded movement. Okay, so we have punch. This is going to let us punch things. Really quick volume warning. This wall here is louder than it should be. Okay, cool. So, punch lets us punch walls. It also lets us break walls, specific walls at least. But it takes a long time to charge up, so we're going to skip those when possible, including here. Okay, this is another pretty difficult trick. What is going on is I am just hugging the wall slightly and then jumping down into the left. But I can't hug the wall too much, or else I will not make the full jump. And I can't jump straight down, or else I'll miss the ledge that I'm jumping to. There we go. And one last long jump out of the way. Cool. And that is Punch Cave. Hard parts down. So, there are 3... Actually, first I need to go to the main menu here. For some reason, if you go through the game too quickly, the fast travel teleport points won't activate when you get near them, unless you go to the main menu and continue again. And so, that is the best place to go to the main menu because it doesn't really lose us any travel time, and we need to activate a fast travel point up here. Jeeves really wants us to turn on the electricity. As Half likes to say, his router is broken. We need to restart the Wi-Fi. But luckily for us, we know how to do things without Wi-Fi before the internet took over our brains. So we're just going to come over to electricity to get what we need and no more. Alright, there's one long jump up here. we have to do our root jump again. There we go. I think it's a little easier to do after you get the golem arm. Okay, sweet. If you fall down in that pit there, you have to respawn, which can waste some time. Say hi to Rogue. Rogue is a side character that appears throughout the game. Normally, she'll run away when you see her there, but her model is loaded before the cutscene where she runs away, so we're able to just kind of pass by her and say hello. So, there are 3 upgrades to our golem arm we get. They all use the same sort of machine, just in different locations. And sort of a fun fact is that we can visit these machines out of order, but you'll always get punch from the first machine you activate, and then the next ability from the second, and then the third ability from the third, regardless of where you activate them. Wow. There we go. Okay. So coming up is a fall damage cancel. This game has fall damage to prevent you from sequence breaking, but we can ignore that. Essentially, what we did is a grounded slash, but in midair, and then a midair punch. Normally, when you're in midair and you press attack, you do like this sword plunge. But by doing a grounded slash in midair, we're able to, for some reason, just, I think, trick the game into thinking we fell from a shorter distance. Don't quote me on that. But there's a few ways we can get to that sort of state where we're able to do a grounded slash in midair. One of them is just doing an attack off a ledge. Alright, so that's all that we came here for. We can just go home now. That gave us the warp ability, which will be important later. But for the moment, we don't really need it. Instead, we are now going to go over to the dome. This used to have a much more difficult trick here, but this collision boost was found. And then these bushes are actually kind of tricky though, because there is a sort of death plane like right above the bushes in a very specific spot. You can either go under them like I am. You can also long jump if you're far enough to the left, but that is just a little too risky for me. Okay. Need to get this ladder for later. Yeah, this game has some puzzles, but not many that appear here in the run. Ooh, okay. If you can grab onto that ladder, it saves a bit of travel time. But I'm still safe enough doing this. You're able to pretty much climb up to the very top of this structure here with that ladder. Right, just gotta make sure I don't fall. Much easier said than done for some reason. Okay, so there is another movement tech called the Platform Boost Jump, or the PBJ, where if you do an attack and jump at the same time, it has some weird properties. Specifically, if you do that on a moving platform, you'll get extra height or extra distance depending on how the platform was moving. So I'm going to do that here to get over to here where the switch is. So again, what I did is I jumped and attacked at the same time, and since the platform was moving vertically, that gave me extra vertical height to get over there. That skips having to do, pretty much just having to push a ladder around. And then there's one more switch we need to turn on before we enter the dome proper. I think you might be able to see why it's called dome now. It has a big dome. Alright, and there's one more non-FPS dependent clip here. Maybe I can get it. The gaps in this fence here are just a little wide. Alright, and then we have time for any donations we might have.
Well, I don't see any new donations, but I would like to remind people that on top of the goal for the Breath of the Wild bonus run at the end of the marathon, we've got some bid wars for Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, Undertale, all sorts of things that you can give some money to a good cause and help interact with what we got going on here this weekend.
Nice. Alright, so now we are in Factory. Factory is divided into 4 sections. The first section is pretty straightforward. You pretty much just push these batteries into this platform and then do a little jump. The next 3 sections after this are all a bit more complex. The reason we have to come here is because there are 3 keystones in the game which unlock large portions of the map. And the first one, and arguably the most important one, is here in Factory. If we didn't need this keystone, we could have skipped pretty much just everything we just did outside of the dome. There's a little bit of waiting here. Alright, good. So here's what warp lets you do. It lets you use these warp pads that kind of just teleport you around the place. There's a few other uses of warp that most of them don't get used. It's really mainly important for here in Factory. Do a long jump here. Woo! Okay. That section, there's like 20 ways you can skip it. Or skip doing the intended route. The long jump I do is just comfort. I wasn't even supposed to land on that fence, but there's a few different ways you can land on that fence for safety. It's really flexible. Alright. So, another thing is I run this game at low shadow settings. That is because some places, such as the Factory, become incredibly dark when you have shadows turned on. Especially that jump I did earlier right before I was able to move that lever. That becomes almost impossible to see when shadows are on, especially when they're on high. So the graphic quality isn't perfect, but it is very helpful for the purposes of running this. Okay, so up here there's going to be yet another switch, but I am going to, as soon as I activate the switch, I'm going to run off the ledge. This is an intended death pretty much to refill my health. Earlier when we were entering Dome, I had to get hit by a vine in order to make a long jump, and so by dying, it refills my health to full. But also, this game has a really interesting property with its death animations that I wanted to make sure I reset for now. I'll get more into that when it becomes more relevant, but now we have this fun little warp panel drive. Zoop, zoop, zoop. Okay. So there's going to be a really cool PBJ here. Hopefully I can pull it off. Now, this platform is going to move forward, but I'm not going to get off of it. Instead, I'm going to let it take me backwards. And then... Yes! Okay, so that was a first cycle. This platform that I'm on is the first one that spawns when you reach this area. And so there's a few different ways you can get that. I just like that because it's very fun. This route doesn't have any chances to go Ultra Instinct. Not really. I mean, there's probably a doorway somewhere. Also, there's another PBJ off the platform this time. Ooh, getting some frame drops. In order to just save a tiny bit of travel time. Okay, some more grounded movement. And then I'm going to try a warp fall damage cancel, which is like the fall damage cancel we did earlier, but we start it with warp. I need to focus a little bit for this. Okay, good. Yeah. And then that long jump is kind of tricky, and we're at our first keystone. So, the key to doing fall damage cancels is, depending on how high up you are, you have to do a different amount of attacks, which, for there was, I think, 3, so I have to, like, really hear the sound effects to figure out how far I'm falling, because I cannot see Hob when I do that. Okay, so also say hi to the pigs. There's a lot of really good animals in this game.
Hi, pigs.
Most of the animals in the game you can pet, which, funny enough, gives you some money. It's actually kind of interesting. The old route for this game used to buy an upgrade called Thrust, which costs these gems. We never actually pet animals to get gems, but it is a possibility. Most of the gems you just get from these, like, these caches or shrines throughout the map. But if you're playing this game and trying to unlock all the abilities, that is a very fun way to do so. Alright, and these are the sprites. We're going to see plenty more of them in the future. First, I have to do a really good long jump that I am bad at. There we go. Okay, so coming up is the final boss of the game. It's not actually, but it's the only, or it's the last fight we actually have to do. We don't have to do it. In fact, if I die to it once, oh yes. So enemies can hurt each other, which means that when you have the two bosses next to each other, it lets you really quickly defeat them. Okay, so those enemies with clubs will one-shot you since we have no health upgrades, which is very tricky. There's a way to skip that boss that I found because I'm normally very bad at it, so I'm really glad that I was able to kill it quickly. So that was a PBJ on those moving platforms there. The first thing I did in this room, spinning room as it's called, was actually a warp with a buffered jump after, so I just held jump during the warp. That's the only place we can use it. I wish we could use it more often because it's really fun. It makes you go very fast. Okay, here is the first of the corruption pods, or as I like to call them, grapes. We must destroy the grapes with the help of our spriteling friends. There are 7 of these in the game, and this is sort of one of the main quest lines. Now, we can reach, I believe, 2 or 3 of them before this one. However, if you don't clear this corruption first, the game will soft lock. For a while, we weren't sure why. It turns out that this game has a hidden quest system that keeps track of your game progression. And the quest for clearing out the corruption increases by 1 whenever you clear corruption, but you only gain it from doing this one first. So if you don't have 6 corruption left over to clear, then you'll never be able to max out the quest, which is a small price to pay. That was Sprite Mom, the mother of sprites. She gave us our next keystone. Okay. I've been having trouble with that ladder there recently. It's very easy to just not grab onto it. Okay, I'm actually going to try and get some health here. Okay, cool. Because there's some enemies up here that will attack me pretty frequently. Okay, like that. Okay. That jump is a little tricky. You can use PBJs to do normal jumps, which I do. It goes a tiny bit further than a normal jump. Okay, this is the electric fence climb. Time in electric fields. Because there is a tricky long jump up here. So I've so far only been using unsheathed sword slashes to do long jumps, but you can also use charge punches, which actually really help you line up your shot. It's the same as soon as you release the charge punch, you press roll and then jump. Ooh, this one is giving me some trouble today. You have to be sort of right on the ledge here. There we go. Perfect. And then, assuming we get the angle right, we're able to just sort of long jump our way across. The nice thing about charge punches is it's a lot easier to angle yourself precisely. So there, I had to angle sort of mostly towards that ladder, which, again, using sort of the still model of Hob charging up a punch is very helpful. So, this keystone opens the cemetery. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's pretty grim. So, normally we would go forward and meet Jeeves, who we can see actually just going up that elevator now. But there is another trick called Bushwhacker 2. It's twice as bad as the first Bushwhacker. I'm the only one that really does it right now. Hopefully I can show it off here. I don't want to climb on that ledge because I have a more precise setup for it. So, whereas the first Bushwhacker, you jump off a bush and onto a wall, this one you have to jump off a bush and onto a teleporter, very close that time, and then onto a wall. And teleporters have a sort of zone around them where if you land inside, it will just sort of make Hob walk into the teleporter. So if I mess this up too badly, then Hob will just sort of be magnetized into the teleporter, which makes this very bad. If I mess this up too many more times, then I'll just do the normal route. But I really would like to get this. I'll do it one more time, and then if that doesn't work, I'll just go see Jeeves. Okay, that's good enough. I gave it the old sophomore try. Okay, so, woof, got caught by a rock. So this isn't too bad. Jeeves really wants to talk to us to show us something, but we have bigger places to be. So we're just going to go off into the distance. Yeah, if you have sword thrust, that jump becomes a lot easier, and you don't have to do Bushwhacker 2. But since we skipped that, that is the only other method to get up there. If you do it first try, then it should save a bit of time. I'm just going to get the attention of that enemy. Whoops. But you know how it goes. Alright, so these enemies over here are goats. They are the hardest enemy to dodge. They are very fast and they will explode and kill you. So if you do the Bush Twacker 2, you're actually able to aggro them early and just not have to deal with them. But in that case, I decided to at least aggro one to explode it so that I wouldn't have to deal with one of them. Alright. So here you can just kind of walk off, land on this tree, and fall down. It's a fall damage cancel without having to do anything. There's a slight long jump here. Okay, good. Walk just over this machine. We don't want to get that checkpoint because by respawning after this machine, we'll be right back to where we started. So this gives us grapple. It is sort of your hook shot, grapple beam, zip over to a target ability. It is extremely broken, but we won't be doing anything broken with it quite yet. Shoot, I wasn't looking at my death animation. So, this is the grapple cave escape. It is kind of precise. Hopefully I can get it quickly. But I want to go ahead and bring up the next trick. So the next thing I'm going to do is a cutscene skip that uses something called a momentum respawn, where you charge up a punch and then when you release the punch, you respawn. It lets you enter a cutscene trigger while respawning, which lets you retain control. Now, to do that, you need a very specific death animation, and you would think that wouldn't be a problem, but when you hit respawn from the menu, there we go. Perfect, okay. When you hit respawn from the menu, the death animation that plays is whatever animation would have played from the last source of damage to hit you. So if you last got hit by a electric shock, even if you didn't die from it, you would get the death animation from that electric shock when you respawn. So just as a safety measure, if you get hit by one of those dog enemies there, it'll give us the correct death animation. Okay, that should be good. Yep, okay, so since that music played, that means we're good to go. So this taking that checkpoint there is specifically what lets us do the cutscene after we trigger it. There we go. I'm just gonna mash attack. Sorry if it's a little loud. So that we retain control. Okay. I'm going to lock onto Rogue and then punch her. When you do an aerial punch on NPCs in cutscenes, it makes them go to their next segment of cutscene, sort of the next action they would do. The next thing Rogue does is drop that keystone and then leave. So we just punch her to make her drop the keystone and leave. So now we're doing some movement off camera. It's a little hard to see, in case you couldn't tell. So I'm kind of going by feel. Luckily, I can open the map to see where I am. Okay. I need to go like straight down a bit and then down right. There we go. You can see in the top left the scenery starting to fade away. There we go. Okay, sometimes you can get caught on bushes and you just have to attack. Alright. So a little bit of a stumble there, but it's not too bad. Going to do another PBJ here, just to guarantee that I land safely. Alright, this is the best enemy in the game. It's the one that is the most likely to damage you, other than goats, I guess. Because it is very good at stabbing. And it has a big shield, which prevents you from rolling past it sometimes. Okay. Here is water. It is actually really cool to go through casually, but we skip a huge portion of it thanks to a little friend called Grapple Storage. So, if you punch at the start of a grapple or at the end of a grapple, then it will save the position of the grapple point that you were grappling to, which means that you can like turn away from it, move away from it, and then you can press grapple again to grapple back to that point. When you grapple this way, you can actually go through walls, and this lets us do some really fun stuff. You can also punch at any point during this grapple, which lets us fall damage cancel wherever we want. Now there is a few caveats to this. The first is that if you're on the same map as that grapple point and you go too far away from it so that it despawns, the game will crash. If you go into a different map, like say the water dungeon, you have instead a timer that I think is about 2 minutes. And if you go too long, or if you wait too long in the dungeon, then the game will crash. So the goal here is to complete the water dungeon in under 2 minutes or so, which might sound difficult if you've played this game casually, but luckily we have a grapple beam. So 1, then I roll down here, jump 2, punch, jump down here, jump 3, and now we're already at the sprite. I am going to sort of go over to the left here, just for, oh no, that's bad, okay. So, I hurt myself there doing the last part of the grapple storage. I don't think I have enough time to go back and finish it. Luckily, if I return to that overworld and then go back down, it refreshes the timer. So I have to do an emergency reset here. Reset of the timer, I mean. I'm just gonna go immediately back down. Luckily, it's a lot easier to get over to where the corruption pod is compared to just where the sprite is. It's really unfortunate because one of my favorite parts in this dungeon is like this panning shot where you go behind this glass window, and so the camera is sort of in this aquarium. It looks really cool when you're walking through it, but we don't go anywhere near that. Whoop. Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna go forward a bit more and then don't die. Okay, whew. That was almost very bad. Yeah, you can just luckily grapple from that second area over to where the corruption pod is. Okay. So that is water. That's another corruption pod down. And then I believe I am not hugging the sprite. Okay, yeah, I think I'm not. So I'm just gonna go ahead and continue with the run here. So I'm getting grapple storage again because luckily this grapple point can reach all the way down to where the next corruption is. which will save us a lot of trouble over here, because this is the return of the goats. There are 3 areas with goats. All of them are painful. Oh no, because that one can go up the stairs. Everybody loves goats. Okay, yeah. So hopefully, there we go. I was like, hopefully I can long jump before they explode this time. Then I'm going to skip by that goat. Goodbye forever. Oops, and I lagged out a bit, so I wasn't able to cancel the grapple where I needed to. Our old route for this corruption involved a very awkward long jump onto a ledge, and then another awkward long jump into the grapple range of the corruption itself. But it's a lot easier when you can grapple storage your way up here. Alright, and then previously we would also go south from here into Wetlands, but instead we're going to make a quick detour back over to the area where we got the sword, where our second to last corruption is.
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, the incentive was not met. I'm
Okay,
so
yeah.
I was on this call, hearing your voice. I'm like, oh, I can just speak whenever there's an opening, and then I speak. I'm like, huh, what? No one's hearing me. Cool.
Side accidentally, then it would endlessly try to put us in the cutscene and fail to do so. It's possible to long jump to where we need to be without hitting that trigger, but it's just a little risky. Okay, there you can see that. Since I died to the poison, or since I took damage from the poison, I got the poison respawn animation. Oh, wow. That's not that good. Alright, I should be able to salvage this. So, I had thought I had gotten a checkpoint over by the intro, but I suppose I did not. That was supposed to just respawn me back at the intro area. But luckily, I should be able to just take this grapple point up here. There we go. Sometimes the points can be a little finicky. You have to be facing towards them and in a certain range. Okay. So that's all good. Now I am going back to where the dome is for the final corruption. And so if I had gotten that checkpoint, we'd just respawn here, and it would be fine and dandy. Instead, I'm going to make sure I get this checkpoint as a backup, because we have to do this trick again. Okay, good enough. I just didn't want to die to that death plane. So, up here is Wetlands Corruption. The method I'm going to try to do is a little tricky and takes a bit of precise movement. This is the only other time, whoops, where warp is useful in the run, is for crossing one specific gap. But it's not this gap that I just died to. That is just a long jump. Okay. Oops, that is the opposite of what I needed to do. There are some walls where if you try to warp on them, you will just plummet to the bottom and die. I call those meteors because it looks like A meteor striking the Earth. Oops. If I miss that warp normally, there's a whole backup strat that's a lot easier to do. But since I didn't even miss it correctly, I have to redo it again. Okay. Okay, this is fine. So I'm going to do another grapple storage here. So ideally, if the warp had worked, I would be across that gap and over to where the corruption is. But since it didn't, we get to do the backup strat, which gives us more grapple storage, so it's okay. More of the fun trick. So, going to go up here, and then up here. Long jump to where this tree is. Whoop. And jump, store, punch. And that puts us over to where the warp would have took us. Now to just not die, because there's a lot of weird points in this area that will either deal damage to you or make you black out, which just instantly respawns. So it's a little treacherous. Okay. So this is the last corruption. Once we clear this, we'll be able to return to Sprite Mom. But there is an entire other main quest line we haven't touched yet, which is the Colossus Cores. There are 3 of these giant robots, and we need the batteries to power them, because they take a lot of battery. And each of the robots has one. Oh, right. Now, there's one directly nearby, and if you do the warp, then there would be another fall damage cancel to actually reach this. But since I got the grapple storage instead, there's the backup strat continues, because you can just grapple storage your way into the Colossus. And then I just have to lose the storage before I teleport anywhere. And now I can go to Sprite Mom again. Yeah, if we go like just slightly bit further to the right, then the game would crash from being too far away from the grapple point. So it's sort of a very serendipitous, very beautiful, lucky coincidence that we're able to do that strat there. Whoop. There we go. Those pillars are very strange. Okay, so we're going to meet Sprite Mom again, and as thanks for freeing all of the corruption pods, she is going to give us another Colossus Core. 2 out of 4 already. Technically this is 3 out of 4, because the checkpoint where I did that momentum respawn earlier gave us 1 already, and we'll be returning there in just a moment. We just have to get the 4th one. Going to get a backup checkpoint. Okay, this is the forest walk-off. It's called that because you just walk off. It sometimes will just kill you, though. This is the one trick where I haven't been able to find any sort of good lineup or setup for it. Okay, that's better. So I'm going to be walking here just because I need to let my energy regain a little bit. There it goes. If you don't have mostly full energy when you get on this grapple point, you'll fall off and die. So by just waiting a little bit, we're able to ensure that we have enough energy to grapple up here. Alright, so there's 1 fall damage cancel left before the end of the run. I'll go ahead and try to do warp, because warp really doesn't get much love in this run. There we go. That's a warp fall damage cancel again. Granted, we also did route out most uses of punch. Okay. Whoops. So yeah, if this place looks familiar, this is where that final, or this is where that Colossus was. Now that we have all the batteries, we can go ahead and charge up the Colossus. And, so we need our friend Jeeves to help us out, but he's nowhere to be seen, right? Like, he should be around here somewhere. I'm sure he'll join us. We've come this far together. Except I did ditch him in the intro. I did tried to ditch him in the cemetery earlier. Okay, there he is. He just folded out of nothing. Classic Jeeves. Okay, so recently another runner, Savade, found a trick that lets us get through this cutscene a little quicker, but I am not at all sure about how to do it. So we're just going to chill out while this Colossus stands up. This game has a ton of small time saves that just sort of chip away at the time. Okay, good. There's a chance that there's a chance that the camera gets messed up when you climb up here, which will cause it to not follow Hob as I move up the arm. Hopefully it's fine, because otherwise you have to do all the movement pretty much by memory. Okay, I don't think it's fine. Nope, it's not. I'm gonna go ahead and respawn just to be safe. Because otherwise it would have stood behind Hob the entire time. Or not behind Hob, but behind the robot the entire time. Which would have made moving very difficult and not fun to watch. Okay, so this is the final climb. This is where we would go to fight the actual final boss, but you actually have a choice not to fight the final boss, which is revolutionary, and it's also great for speedrunning. Of course, we have to get up there first. There are a lot of grapple points. Now, part of the way it checks if you can actually reach a grapple point is, I believe, if it's in vision. So we go back there to make the camera, zoom out a little bit. And then that should let us grab onto the next grapple point without having to move this lever. You can actually see it kind of flicker to life there. I almost had it that time. Currently my microphone's blocking the symbol that lets me know if I can grapple something. Oop, that was almost it as well. There we go. So yeah, that skips having to move another lever. We're going to get Grapple Storage one last time. Perfect. Because we have a cutscene skip. So, first what I'm doing is grappling through the cutscene trigger, which will kill me, but it lets me maintain control during the cutscene. Then once we go in, we're going to see Rogue again, and we're going to punch her again. See ya. Which just speeds that up. And now the alien queen is going to come out of her cocoon here. I need to pay very close attention to her cutscene animation so that I know when to respawn. Look at your hand. Now back to me. Now back to your hand. Sadly, I must respawn myself. So yeah, if I didn't respawn, that red glowy hand move would hold me in place. But by respawning at the correct time, I'm dead during the trigger that forces you to stop moving. So now I can control myself. We're going to wait until she stands back up again for one last punch. Alright. And then time is when the screen goes black. And time. Yep. And so Sadly, we did the bad ending. We joined the queen, but it's the fast ending. Everybody loves the fast ending. And that was
Time?
Hob.
So do you want to know the time?
Sure.
54:15.
Pretty good, pretty good. Anything under an hour is good.
I want to say, Twak, thank you so much. You were having a lot of technical issues during this entire run, and you just carried it so well
Hey.
throughout this entirety of this. It was super entertaining, and honestly, I kind of want to learn this game now.
It's great. We have a lot of resources.
Yeah, but thank you. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, join the Hob Discord. We're great people. We do races all the time. And hope you enjoyed the weekend and enjoy the remainder of the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Twak. Be sure to give him a follow. He's done really well. And again, wow, it was honestly the most amazing things was how you were able to, like, for instance, just try to navigate by feel when you couldn't control the camera at all. And you're just like, oh, I'm here now. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's really impressive.
That's a fun part.